Peppa's house had always been filled with laughter and pure joy. Today, something changed forever and ever completely. Olive Labubu appears in the garden very mysteriously. Red eyes burn with pure, sinister fire. Labubu whispers strange ancient words in unknown language. Air fills with dark, magical energy everywhere. Peppa plays with Susie peacefully together happily. Suddenly, they start fighting without any reason at all. Labubu smiles wickedly with great satisfaction. His evil plan begins working perfectly as intended. George cries in the corner all alone. Toys scattered across the floor everywhere around him. Mummy Pig shouts at Daddy very angrily. Their voices become louder and much louder, constantly. Labubu touches house walls with his paws. Magic spreads through all rooms very quickly now. Grandpa Pig argues with Granny very harshly. They never fought like this before ever. Labubu walks through school buildings slowly. Children start fighting each other quite violently now. Pedro pushes Danny Dog very roughly. Emily Elephant cries from deeply hurt feelings inside. Labubu watches chaos with pure delight. His red eyes glow brighter than before always. Madame Gazelle tries calming children down desperately, but magic is far too strong for anyone. Labubu walks through town streets calmly. All families begin arguing and fighting constantly now. Kylie Kangaroo argues with neighbors very loudly. Freddy Fox runs home feeling scared completely. Labubu climbs up the high hill. Entire town covered in quarrels and fights everywhere. Wendy Wolf howls with deep sadness. Nobody wants to be friends anymore at all. Labubu speaks final spell very loudly. Quarrels become eternal and permanent forevermore. Everyone stares at each other coldly. Only anger remains in their eyes now. Labubu disappears into thick, mysterious fog. His work here is finally complete forever. Town falls into eerie, complete silence, but it's silence of pure hatred. Children no longer play together happily. Families live in constant conflicts always. Labubu watches from far distance proudly. His plan succeeded completely and perfectly forever. Nobody remembers how to be friends. Fighting became their new permanent life. Peppa's house always seemed like the safest place. But nobody suspected the dark secrets of the mysterious seashell. Granny Pig arrives with the mysterious smile. In her hands, a large seashell shimmers with strange light. Peppa joyfully claps her hands, receiving gift. The seashell seems ordinary, but something about it frightens. Granny carefully puts the seashell to ear. Ocean sounds fill the room with sinister whispers and echoes. The family gathers around the amazing find. Nobody notices the red pulsating light growing stronger. Daddy Pig takes the seashell and nods. In ocean sounds, there's strange laughter getting louder. Mummy Pig places the seashell on shelf. Red light becomes brighter every passing minute, dangerously. George touches the seashell with little hand. Sound transforms into sinister whispers of unknown language. Night falls peacefully. Family goes to sleep. The seashell glows bright red light alone in darkness. Midnight strikes on the old clock. The seashell cracks loudly. Terrible gurgling sounds emerge. A deep crack appears with loud crunch. Red light bursts out violently, illuminating living room. From cracked seashell emerges yellow hand. Sharp claws scratch wooden floor, leaving deep grooves. Evil SpongeBob climbs out completely from prison. Eyes burn with red fire, teeth became sharp fangs. Monster examines house with hungry expression. Sinister laughter echoes around, awakening terror in sleeping hearts. Peppa wakes up from strange sound. She quietly goes downstairs, not suspecting terrible danger. Evil SpongeBob turns with wide smile. Red glowing eyes hypnotize Little Pig, depriving will to resist. Monster extends hand toward Peppa obediently. Her eyes become completely empty. Smile disappears forever. Family wakes up without finding Peppa. They search entire house desperately, find only broken seashell. Evil SpongeBob stands with Peppa outside. Now she's his faithful servant with empty glassy eyes. Monster looks at house planning horrors. His collection of living puppets must be filled with victims. Red eyes glow menacingly in darkness. He waits patiently to take remaining family members. The house will never be same. Seashell was only beginning of horror consuming all who approach. Susie Sheep comes to visit Peppa with a special gift, but something about her seems strange and frightening. Susie gives Peppa a small green Labubu creature as present. Her eyes glow unnaturally bright and eerie. Peppa happily accepts the gift and hugs Labubu tightly. She doesn't notice its evil, sinister smile. At night, Labubu comes alive in Peppa's bedroom. Its eyes burn with bright green radioactive light. Labubu starts dripping poisonous green slime on Peppa's toys. Everything around begins to rot and decay. In the morning, Peppa finds her toys ruined and damaged. Labubu pretends to be an ordinary stuffed toy. Susie comes to visit again the next day. She behaves very strangely and in a creepy manner. Peppa tells Susie about her ruined toys and problems. Susie only smiles in a sinister, evil way. Mummy Pig notices that Susie looks different somehow, but she cannot understand what exactly has changed. At night, Labubu comes alive again with glowing eyes. It ruins family photos with poisonous dripping slime. Peppa wakes up and sees Labubu moving around. She screams in terror and absolute horror. Parents rush to help, but Labubu pretends to be toy. Nobody believes Peppa's frightening story. Susie comes in the morning and suggests going to forest. She wants to play with Labubu there. In the dark forest, Susie leads Peppa to Old Hut. A terrifying witch lives in that place. The witch emerges from the hut and thanks fake Susie. She brought another victim for her plans. Peppa understands the horrible truth about her situation. This Susie is not her friend, but evil double. In a cage near the hut sits real Susie. She cries and begs desperately for help and rescue. The witch explains that fake Susie helps her catch children. She uses Labubu as magical trap. Labubu transforms into a huge monster with dripping slime. Its poison becomes even more dangerous and toxic. Peppa tries to run away from the forest, but fake Susie and witch surround her completely. Dr. Bear searches for missing Peppa everywhere, but he goes in the wrong direction, unfortunately. Peppa's family thinks she is playing with Susie safely. They don't suspect any danger or trouble. In the forest, Witch prepares magical spell ritual. Fake Susie helps her with dark ceremony. Real Susie remains trapped in the cage forever. Nobody knows that she is imprisoned there. Labubu guards the prisoners with poisonous abilities. Escape from this place is completely impossible. Peppa's house always seemed like a safe place, but nobody knew what dark secrets were hidden here. The family returns home after a long vacation. Heavy suitcases bang loudly on the porch steps. Daddy Pig opens the door with his key. The lock creaks strangely and ominously in the silence. Peppa runs inside, oinking happily with joy. Her bright smile quickly disappears from her face. Things in the living room are out of place. Someone was definitely here during their absence. Mummy Pig notices wet footprints on the floor. They lead from the front door to the stairs. George clutches Mr. Dinosaur tightly to his chest. The little one senses danger in the house. Daddy turns on the lights, but bulbs flicker. Electricity creates eerie shadows dancing on walls. Strange sounds come from the bathroom upstairs. Someone is splashing in the water above them. The family slowly climbs the creaking stairs. Each step groans ominously under their feet. The sounds become louder and much stranger. This is definitely not ordinary bathing. Peppa carefully opens the bathroom door. Inside glows dim reddish light from flickering candles. In the bathtub sits a creature with coral red fur, huge glowing eyes and a terrifying smile. Labubu slowly turns his head toward the family. Sharp teeth glisten in the flickering candlelight. The creature begins to giggle quietly. The sound echoes throughout the entire house eerily. The water in the tub turns dark and murky. Labubu smiles without taking his eyes off them. Daddy tries desperately to close the door. The handle burns his hand with icy cold. Labubu rises from the bathtub very slowly. He takes a deliberate step toward the exit. The family steps back in terror. The corridor seems infinitely long and endless now. Candles go out one by one mysteriously. The house plunges into complete and total darkness. In the darkness, only soft giggling is heard. Labubu is nearby, but completely invisible. Light returns suddenly. Family finds themselves in living room. Everything looks normal and peaceful again. On the table lies a mysterious note. "Welcome home." The strange handwriting frightens everyone deeply. Peppa looks up and sees wet marks. Labubu is still somewhere in the house. The family no longer feels safe at home. Every night they hear giggling from the bathroom. A sunny day seemed perfectly ordinary and peaceful. George was riding his bright red bicycle along the familiar path near home. The wheels began to squeak loudly and unnaturally. The sound echoed through the empty street ominously, warning of something sinister. A strange yellow figure appeared from around the corner. It was Labubu with a frightening smile and glowing symbols in his eyes. Labubu approached without making any sound. His paws left yellow smoking traces on the dark asphalt below. George tried desperately to ride away, but the pedals spun by themselves. The bicycle wouldn't obey his commands anymore. Labubu extended his dark paw and whispered incomprehensible words. They sent a terrible chill down the spine. The sky darkened rapidly, though it was still morning. Dark clouds gathered ominously above them both. Peppa looked out the window and saw her brother with a stranger. Something about the scene was deeply frightening. She ran quickly to Daddy Pig, but when they returned, George had completely vanished. Only the bicycle remained. Labubu stood nearby and stared directly at the house. His yellow eyes glowed much brighter than before. Daddy Pig ran out frantically to search for his son. Labubu dissolved into thin air, leaving yellow smoke. George was found sitting in the basement. He sat there quietly, repeating strange, incomprehensible words. Mummy Pig tried to talk to him, but he looked right through her. Mysterious symbols reflected in his eyes. Dr. Brown Bear understood nothing at all. George was perfectly healthy, but behaved very strangely. At night, George went slowly to the window. Labubu waited there patiently, beckoning into the darkness. Peppa followed carefully as her brother opened the door. Labubu walked ahead into the night. They reached an old abandoned house. Labubu disappeared mysteriously inside the dark building. Strange, eerie sounds came from the house. George stepped across the threshold and vanished inside. Peppa ran for help, but the house was completely empty. A yellow medallion lay on the floor. George sat at home as if nothing had happened, but now he wore the mysterious medallion. Every night, Labubu appears under the window. He stands there and waits for his friend. George no longer plays with toys. He only stares out the window and whispers strange words. The family doesn't know what to do anymore. George remained with them, but changed forever. Peppa and George were playing in the living room when suddenly all the toys began to move on their own. George dropped his dinosaur and it shattered into pieces. Peppa laughed, but George cried. His tears turned black like tar. Frightened, Peppa ran to her room. The house grew cold and dark. Mirrors showed strange shadows, and in Peppa's bedroom mirror appeared a silhouette with huge eyes, Labubu. She felt breathing on her neck. George sat in the living room, surrounded by dark figures. Labubu whispered into his ear with invisible lips. In the kitchen, Mummy Pig found all the food spoiled and strange symbols crawling on the walls. Sinister laughter echoed everywhere. Daddy Pig tried to switch on the lights, but the bulbs burst one by one. Footsteps sounded in the darkness, yet no one was there. Labubu grew stronger. When Peppa left her room, George had vanished, leaving only black footprints. In the bathroom, taps ran with black water, and the mirror cracked, revealing red eyes. The family gathered in the living room, but George was missing. A dark figure sat on the sofa. Labubu revealed his true face. Susie Sheep came to visit but saw the house sealed from within. She knocked, but no one answered. Freddie Fox and Danny Dog searched for their friends and found the house abandoned, the grass around it blackened. Inside, Labubu controlled the family like puppets. Their eyes were empty. Peppa tried to escape, but every door led to the same room. Labubu laughed and showed her George, standing motionless with a hollow stare. Madame Gazelle arrived, worried why the children hadn't come to school. The house was shrouded in fog, the air trembling. Emily Elephant and her mummy passed by, hearing children crying. Then silence. Granny and Grandpa Pig visited and found the house empty. Children's drawings crawled on the walls. At night, neighbors saw shadows flicker in the windows. Labubu danced with his new toys, the family forever trapped in his dark world. By morning, the house looked normal, but no one was inside. On the table lay a note from Peppa, the word Labubu, written over and over in childish handwriting. Pedro Pony peeked through a window and saw silhouettes of the family at the table. When he waved, they turned toward him, empty sockets staring. Wendy Wolf heard children laughing from the basement. She found George's toys, but the laughter went on. Labubu watched from the attic, glowing eyes fixed on the town. He had already chosen his next family. In the final scene, the camera moved through the empty house. On the wall hung a family photo, but the faces were erased. Only Labubu smiled from the dark corner.